to attend here today. So I just imagine that rather than try to summarize or repeat myself to some people, I might as well just share the recording. So I just realized that in some of the trainings I've been doing, like I said, that the conversation today is all around career switch. Beyond just getting a new job, it's pretty much looking at conversation around I'm doing this particular career, I want to switch to a different career, or I'm doing this same job with this industry and I want to switch to a different industry. You could have been a project manager working in real estate, for instance, and then you want to switch to work on stuff in IT. That's still classified to some extent as career change as well, because there needs to be some new skill set, new information for that. So, and without, like I said at the beginning, that not very deliberately, I was just focused on doing the training for people, but I've got to realize that more of the people that I'm training are people who are looking to switch to start the career path. So I realized that a number of my training time is focused on all the conversation around, okay, this is what you need to do if you're changing career. These are some of the things you need to think about here and there. So I was like, okay, what about doing a session to just talk about this? Because since most of my trainings are focused on non-technical roles in IT, like I said earlier, project management, product management, Scrum Masters, business analysts, and the rest of it. I just realized there are some other people that some of these things I share with those folks are things that even if you're not going into any of those career paths, some of all those things can work in the light of those changes as well. So, of course, as we all know, you want to make a decision concerning something. The first question you're always asking is, why do you want to change? Like, why do you want to switch your career from this to this? Why do you want to change your job from this organization to this organization? I know, even though I said this conversation is more around career switch, like you're switching from one career to a different one, absolutely. I'll talk about some things as well, so that even if it's just changing jobs, it still applies. As well. So of course, the conversation is always why do you want to make the change? I know when I relocated to the UK some 4.5 years ago or so, the first place I got to work was at an insurance company. And after almost a year in that place, while in that organization, my role changed already anyway. I got in there as a business analyst, became a project manager within a few months. And but in less than a year, I just realized I need to move on from here. In that case, my wife for that point, I loved the organization. I loved the people I was working with. The company was very close to my house, just walking distance, like real walking distance, like 7-10 minutes walking distance, So for me at that point, a very fundamental reason why I wanted to change was money. Like I got in, I realized that, hey, I could have negotiated better or something like that. And my job changed and I feel, okay, but the review was not happening as fast as it should. So I just decided to say, okay, let's move on. So in that case, I wasn't necessarily changing a career or changing change industry eventually, but it's not as if I was deliberately saying I want to change industry, I want to change my career path. I just needed a new job. That was just it, but in some cases, my role have kind of like changed quite a bit in the last 4.5 years. And this is because a lot of time I get into an organization in one role, I leave that organization with a different role. So it's like a different career path just gets shaped from there. And then I enjoy it and I just flow with it. That's like one of the smoothest, easiest way. And that's one of the things I've realized. If you really want to change your career path, you're working in financial administration, for instance, and you want to switch to do something in IT product management, for instance, if you have the opportunity to switch within the organization where you are, please do switch. It's always like the easiest way because you're already in there. It's easy to be able to speak to who makes the decision, demonstrates the skills that you have, and make that happen. Now, in some situation, the organization might not be open. Maybe there's no opening or opportunity for you to switch within the organization. One thing I get to advise people is if you start thinking that, okay, I want to change into this career path because of whatever reason, if you have the opportunity to start going close to people doing that stuff in your place of organization, please try to do it. Yeah. Get close to them. Just start poke nosing into other people's business within the organization, really, because you are able to learn a few skills there so that whatever new things you learned, whatever things you contributed to, those things can now go into your CV. If all you did was speaking to a project manager just to understand the project they did and you supported them with 1 or 2 tasks, you can clearly put on your CV to say you've worked on this project. So that's why it's very essential. Like when I work in a particular place, I'm always happy to put on my hands up for other stuff, as long as it's not overstretching me, of course. So if you have opportunity where you are right now to pick additional skills that aligns with whatever it is you want to switch into, please do that. It's always very, very helpful for things that needs to go into your CV. And I said this the other day, and I know that a good portion of the people on the conversation really has something to do with the UK. So I would make some things that are more UK focused analogy or explanation today. So within the UK anyway, I mean, I left Nigeria 4.5 years ago or so, and I realized that in Nigeria, if you've done multiple roles, you kind of like tell to the people that, okay, yeah, this is the guy that we need. Like we need a project manager, somebody who has done something in finance, somebody who has done something in HR, somebody who has done something in, I don't know, like costs management or change management. It feels like, yeah, you can really do this job. But moving to the UK, I realized that they are more focused on one part. Like sometimes, not only are they looking for project managers who have had all their experiences as project managers, they are looking for project managers who has worked on a particular type of project, like ERP deployment or Salesforce or things like that. And so even if you've been a project manager for 15, 20 years, sometimes, if you don't have that particular project experience, it just feels, well, we're looking for somebody who have worked on that particular project. And I'm like, sometimes I wonder because, yeah, even if I've not worked on that particular CRM system, I've worked on this CRM system and the logic, it's all the same. But now they believe that there is some learning curve involved and just want people who can hit the ground running. And one time when I had that situation, one of the ways I was able to work on it is that I've worked on a similar technology. I've not worked on this or that technology. So what I had to do was within the period that I got the information to come for the interview, at the time I went for the interview, I did a lot of research around that other technology. So that by the time I got into the interview, I'm like, yeah, have you worked with this particular one? I said, no, I've not worked on this one, but I've worked on this other. Yeah. However, I've done a lot of research on this one. I didn't have to go into the details of saying I only started the research after I got the invite into the interview. But I mean, I've done the research truly, isn't it? I've done a lot of research on this. So, okay, yeah, that's fine. And because I've done a lot of research on that, I was able to speak some things that are particular to that. And because I've worked on another different technology, I was able to even compare them in that conversation because all they need anyway is somebody who have the knowledge of that technology. So as long as I can speak it to them during that interview, of course, they were happy. I got the job, got in there. I mean, as a child of God, did some wonders while in the place because everywhere we go as children of God, we need to do wonders anyway. So, and when I had to leave, it was even like, oh yeah, we're losing one of our fantastic guys here, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that's me blowing my trumpet a little bit, but it's one of those things you have to learn to do sometimes, isn't it? It's called testifying. All right. So I said earlier that why do you really want to change your career? It's very important to emphasize it. I gave an example that it's about that it was money at some point. At another time of research, when I made a change, it wasn't so much about the money. For me, at that point, it was so much about, oh, at this point in my career, I think this is what I want to be doing. And since this place where I am is not going to give me that opportunity, I had to look for another organization that is going to give me that opportunity of what I felt was the right point my career was supposed to be at. So having made your decision, of course, your decision guides what you're going to select. So I understand today, everybody wants to get some role that is one way or the other tech related because technology is one thing today that is not about, what's it called? Technology today is something that is not about a sector. You know, a lot of things you can still say to me about sector, but technology is not, because every organization, everybody needs some kind of like tech resources. Some banks, like legacy banks, I'm not talking about like the new digital banks, like existing legacy banks today, beginning to have even more technology focused resources than any other talent within the organization. So that's one space where the demand would only keep growing. And as we've seen with COVID making a lot of us to work from home, that's even one of the reasons why I've got a number of people I worked with last year who were like, oh, they want to switch their career, because when COVID hit and everybody was working from home, if your role was tech related, you'd be working from home, but some of those other roles where they still had to go to work every day, they just realized, okay, I think they want product management, program management, or project management roles where they can now work from home and things like that. So anyway, all that story is just to talk about the fact that the demand or the flow within tech-related stuff is growing seriously. So I might be talking a lot of that space as an example, but even if that is not your cup of tea, some of the things I'll be talking about, it's related to you, you can work with them and things like that. So I've said something earlier, which is you're working in an organization, try as much as possible, please, to even if you're not working on that role itself. Try to do things that you can use as stories. And as I said earlier, as testimonies when you get into the interview for the next stuff you want to go for. So what the second thing I'm going to say here is this is like my go-to advice I give to people a lot of time. Oh, sorry, I'm interested in this particular career path. What do I do? My first advice most times is always start reading job descriptions, start reading job adverts. Like that is the source of truth that tells you what organizations are looking for. You can go ahead and read research and read blog articles that, oh, this is what people need in this role. But some of all those articles sometimes are opinion-based. Somebody from their own perspective is writing as if that's what everybody in the world needs. Of course, some of them are research-driven, but when you don't know which one is research-driven and this one is not research-driven, why not just do the research yourself? Go ahead, go online, thank God, LinkedIn, go to LinkedIn, put the particular country you're interested in, type the job, tell them the status. This is, not only when you're doing those research on job adverts, not only will it help you to understand the skills you're looking for, it also helps you to understand the volume of the demand. And I love to do this in a number of my sessions, and I'm going to do that very quickly now as well. Like I said, for those of us who joined later, this conversation today is more supposed to be me responding to your questions. So some of all these things I'm still blabbing about right now is me just talking while I'm waiting for questions to drop in. So please, if you have questions, drop your questions. I'm going to make a detour from what I'm talking about and respond to your question. Why is that? Is because whatever question I'm responding to, they're more or less the same thing I would flow about. And that way it will help me focus on what you really want to hear rather than just talk about everything. Okay, so like I said, do your research, isn't it? So let's take an example of project management, for instance. What screen am I sharing? Let me just even share it as a tab. Okay, I share this. All right, you can all see my screen, all right? Somebody respond, please.
Yes.
All right, thank you. So now I'm going to do an example here. Well, what it's like, project management. People can tell you this is the average pay for this role, that is the average pay for that role. But when you do your research yourself, you see the gospel truth. Project management, what I typed here, so what I need to see is jobs, as you can see my screen. And
so what are you doing now? Basically, you're at LinkedIn, right?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. So I'm just trying to search for project management jobs that have been advertised in the UK and dates posted. I'm trying to look for things that have been advertised. Most times just try to check for things that have been advertised in the last 1 month. Why I check for a lot of time is because that's almost like the duration of time it takes from applying to a job and somebody resuming the job. And that's also one thing to keep at the back of your mind, that a lot of time you see some job adverts, you're applying for them, but they've already shortlisted that thing down to 2 or 3 people that they are interviewing at the moment. So the only reason why they still leave that advert up is so that if any of those 3 does not work out for them, they still have new pool to get to. So sometimes if you apply for some jobs and they just say, no, straight up, don't take it personally. They don't even read your CVs at all a lot of times, because the first set of people that have applied, they've already shortlisted. And that's why sometimes when you really want to do the application, I always advise to people to say, try to screen your adverts and apply for jobs that were advertised that same day. And this is within the context of the UK. And I believe it applies everywhere as well too, because the early set of the applications, even while I was in Nigeria, I know that the early set of the applications I receive are the ones we review. And if we've gotten someone good from that place, we don't stress ourselves trying to read the 2,000 other CVs that came in afterwards. So early to apply increases the chances. So what I was saying, do your research yourself. This is just a research on project management in the UK. In the last 1 month, 56,000 roles have been advertised. Like this is, I'm even wondering, how did it jump to this number? We were on break within Christmas to New Year, almost 2 weeks of break, yet we still have a lot of adverts that is still up there. One of the reasons that leads to this is that research has showed it, that a lot of people resign their jobs in January. And that's because, new year, you want to start a new thing and all that. A lot of people have submitted a resignation in December. Some people come back in January and then they resign. Some people resign in February. So a lot of resignations happen around this time. And secondly, as well, too, within the UK, a lot of resignations have been going on since last year. Like the whole remote working and everything and near-death experience that some people have had with COVID is making people to just realize, man, you only have one life to live, man. You have to do the best thing for yourself. So they realize this job, I don't want it. They're resigning. They're moving on to the next thing. So if you've decided this is the job I'm interested in, the next thing you want to go for is go out there and do a research on those jobs. And one thing I'm going to say before we even read anything here is that don't also take the job descriptions of a job as mandatory. Everything, there are some things that are mandatory on those adverts. Some of them are suggestions. Some of them will say they need somebody with this certification and that certification. And you might end up getting that job without any certification. As far as concerned in the UK, the most important thing is your experience. And there's the same thing all over the world. They tell you we need this amount of years of experience, that years of experience and all of that. Also, don't get carried away by the number of years that is being requested. People don't just think about the number of years. They are thinking about the quality in those years. So they might say they look for 10 years and you've got 6 or 7 years and you have some very solid quality to match. You might get it over somebody else coming with a 15 years number of experience. So don't throw away opportunities because you think you don't match some things, as long as you're not too far off. Of course, you're not going to come with a 1 year or 2 years experience and then go apply for a 10 years experience kind of job. You must have done some very unusual magic in those 2 years to make you competitive when you're looking for 10 years experience. So when I say that, you shouldn't take the number as exact. You shouldn't also be too far off from what is being requested. So one thing as well to think of is what kind of organizations do you want to work with? You might want a role. It does not mean you want every organization. Do you want a consulting company? Do you want a non-consulting company? Things like that. When I had to make my last switch, one thing that was very essential for me at that point is I needed to make a switch into a consulting organization. So I had to narrow my search based on that, even though I wasn't actively searching. Anyway, the opportunities, and it happens a lot in the UK. Once your profile is out there solid, a lot of those opportunities come knocking. And there, I was in a session one time. I went for a training and someone said it there in that training that they've done a poll in the UK that 80% of the people who are looking for their next role believe that their next role is not going to be the role they applied for. It's going to be a role where the recruiters reach out to them and say, hey, we have this opportunity. Are you interested? It happens a lot. It happens on LinkedIn, happens via your email and all that. So that, as I want to encourage people to say, if you're looking for a particular job, once you get a very good CV out there, pump out a lot of applications. Some of the roles you'll apply for will tell you, no, it's happened to me personally. The recruiting company would, as I said many times, they don't read the CV. They just respond. They've read the first set that they were interested in and they just auto reject every other person. A recruiter that have sent that auto reject to me, that same recruiting company reaching out to me about 2 weeks later for a job I did not apply for. Hey, are you interested in this? Oh yeah, fantastic, I'm interested. And then I moved on to getting it as well. So these are some of the things to put in mind. And this does not just happen here. It happens everywhere in the world. I have friends back in Nigeria who has had this experience where they just got reached out to that, hey, we saw your CV. And that's because they've applied for something else. So that's how the CV get there. They did not magically see a CV that is just sitting in your desktop. You've sent it out. It is while it was out there that they saw it, so they're able to reach out for all of this. So go ahead and start reading job descriptions. Some of you will say, oh, you're talking about career switch and you've not even talked about learning new skills and things like that yet. Yes, I'm going to get there because the essential thing is there are a lot of skills to learn for anything you want to switch into. So rather than try to learn everything, you need to find a way to understand what is the priority skill that you need to focus on. And how do you narrow down that list? Reading job descriptions. I even have like a way I kind of tell people sometimes that if you even want like a shortcut to this, there's something called, is it word art or word cloud? I can't remember now. A word art, it generates word cloud. So all this kind of stuff where it's like different text coming together. I've done it before in one of my sessions. I probably won't do it today because we don't have enough time. So what to just do with this is, how do you even paste this thing again? Import. Yeah, you paste the text here. So you've gone to the site like this, go onto the job adverts, copy the job adverts, what they are looking for, paste it in there, copy like 10, 20 different job adverts, paste it in there. By the time you do that and generate it, automatically the word art is going to show you the keywords that is very common everywhere. So that way, you know the key things that people are looking for in your space. So you don't just want to develop a skill based on what one company is looking for, because if you spend 20, 40, 50, 60, 100 hours developing a skill on what one company is looking for, if you don't get that opportunity from that one company, if every other person is not looking for it, you're not competitive enough. So you want to narrow down your list based on what most companies are looking for. So, and even though I've worked in a particular role over the years, I still do this research even for myself and for the people that I train a lot of time. And why do I keep doing this research is because what was in demand last year might not be in demand this year. And at every point in time, it's good to do that research to fine tune it, to know what is in demand at this point in time. What are those keywords that are always repeated? So the first thing is that those keywords need to appear on your CV. And for them to appear on your CV, you need to know them, isn't it? So that's where the whole thing comes now. So that's why we've not even talked about writing the CV yet, because you need to find what skills people are looking for, do the training, train yourself on those skills, and then move on to putting up your CV around it. Sometimes I do it the other way around. I tell people, look for the skills that you're looking for, get these things into your CV one way or the other, list them as skills that you already have, then start learning those skills in order of priority. And why do I say that sometimes? It's because it's like you've written down a vision. You know, one of my favorite Bible scriptures says, write down the vision and make it plain. It's like you've written a future version of your CV. So now, because you've written it down, there is some of this clarity of, okay, this is what I'm focused on now. So you can always go back, pick that skill, learn that. And I tell you, most skills, especially when your role is not a technical role, most skills that you need to learn are things that you can always learn within a few hours. So a full dedication and say, I'm going to dedicate 10 hours every week. And in 1 month, you can be ready for a lot of roles, a lot of change, like even if you've not done them before. Of course, if you now start talking about some technical stuff, maybe things in software programming itself, you know, some of all those kind of things like that might require much more study than that. But most of the things around projects, product delivery, business analysts, scrum masters, a lot of all those kind of things like that. 10 hours a week dedication, within 1 month, you would have trained and learned a lot of stuff that is required. One mistake that a lot of people make is sometimes they think, oh yeah, I need certification. If I get the certification, it will increase my chances. So they go ahead, learn something, write an exam for a certification, but they've only learned enough knowledge to pass an exam, not enough knowledge to be able to do the job. And the funny thing is, I've been doing training a lot of times, so I can say this confidently, that many times, some of the training that you use to pass a certification exam are not practical in nature in terms of the work. And instead of investing a lot of hours first on certification, I rather advise people to invest a lot of hours first on learning the skill. Yes, the certification helps because it increases the chances when you're checking the CV and things like that. But experience, is what people are even more interested in. And a lot of times, some people think, I've not done this type of job before at all. But if you get someone to break it down to you, and I do this example a lot with people who want to switch into business analysis. I know this concerns 1 or 2 people here who want to switch into business analysis. And I say that when you want to make a switch into business analysis, because business analysis is such a very broad discipline, like almost anything you've been doing in your career, I can tell you 10, 15 things that you've done in that job that it's actually the role of a business analyst. So it's one of those roles where anything at all you've been doing, you can always explain your previous experience within the context of business analysis. So all is very important for you is by the time you learn all those terminologies that you fetched out from the job descriptions that you read, you will not be able to realize that, okay, we're talking about stakeholder management here. Well, of course, that's what I do when I set up this engagement with XYZ number of people in the organization. They're talking about requirements engineering here. Well, that's what I do when I speak to XYZ to find out what they need to determine how we prepare the reports for them. Oh, they're talking here about process modeling. It's like, well, I might not have drawn the process diagrams in tools like Visio and the rest of them, but I've done some documentation around this. I've done some charts or some simplified flows to explain it. So you realize that almost everything you've done them in your current role. So that's one thing as well, that any role you're looking for, try to start looking for the areas of similarity. What have you done that can blend into this? So as you learn all those new terminologies, it's not only enough for you to learn them and put in your CV to say, I've done this training and I have these skills. It's important to go back to your CV and say, how can I use these new terminologies to explain the things that I've done before in the past? So, and because CV is not just something we write, this. Your CV is a storybook. It needs to be a story. When I read each of those lines in your CV, they need to be as real as possible. Don't just tell me that you do budget management. Put a bit of a story around it. Manage a budget of £2.5 million over in a 7-month project. Now that sounds more real to me than somebody who is telling me that in charge of budget management. Somebody else can just write that even if they've not done it. But if you put a bit more details to it, it sounds more convincing to me that you've actually done that. You know, you probably were not the chief budget manager, you know, you probably was not the person who owned it, but you supported it and you contributed to it. But of course, you want to be careful to use the right, what's it called? To use the right verbs, that you're not shooting yourself in the foot, because depending on what level of role you are looking for, there are terminologies that you need to be very careful about. If you're looking for a more senior role, you don't want to be doing a lot of verbs on supported, assisted, you understand? So you want to do more verbs around led, managed, facilitated, supervised. So these are things that one needs to be conscious about. And that's why in this country, in UK, 2 people with exact same years of experience, and they can be working with exactly the same organization, and one person can be earning double what the other person is earning. It is the story you come to tell us. If you tell us a story that you're capable, we'll believe you and we pay you as Mr. Capable or Mrs. Capable. But if you come to us and you're shaky, you're not confident, we're going to put you at the position that you're not. I was doing an interview one time, and some of the conversation was talking about, thankfully, the organization was very good. Their feedback was very clear. Like after the first stage interview, I got a feedback that they didn't hear enough about my experience with coaching leadership within the organization. Since I got that feedback, and I know I've done that, and what I need to make sure that in my next interview, I try to emphasize that, such that one of the feedback after the second interview was the person saying that one of the strong strengths was that I have a lot of leadership coaching experience. So thankfully, they were giving those feedback. That's how I was able to make that change and things like that. So imagine just that one singular thing could have determined if I'm being placed at this level or this level. So you see that if you tell the story right, it determines how far ahead you want to shoot yourself. You know, sometimes some people are afraid, like, oh, I'm just making this change, so I think it's just better to just start from the scratch. No, you've got a lot of years of experience in doing whatever you've been doing. And let me tell you one thing, that many times when they say we need a project manager with 10 years experience, that 10 years experience is not because we need you to have exactly been doing project management for 10 years. That 10 years experience is more of a signal to your maturity. So even if you've got 10 years experience doing something else, you can still stand competitive in that space because you've got that level of maturity, maybe because of the level of stakeholders you'll be dealing with. You don't just want somebody who is too young and who has not had different stuff. So those experiences are not just going to be thrown away. You can fetch back to them. So you can't say because you're switching a career, you have to go and start from scratch. Except, of course, if you were going to switch to like becoming a medical doctor, for instance, there's no way, even if you've had 100 years of experience, that one you have to go back to school, graduate, and start again from the scratch, you know? So if that's not the case, you can always rely on that. So that is pointing to one thing there, which is confidence. It's very, very essential. A lot of time when I'm coaching people who are making this switch, some people, even after they've successfully gotten the job, that's when the fear now hits them. And they're like, oh, I've done some training, but I'm not sure if I can do this, blah, 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 blah. And all that. I was like, well, if you keep embracing that fear would eventually determine the outcome that you get in that place. You have to let go of the fear. You have to be confident that even if you fail confidently. That's one essential thing, like, you know, because it's a 50-50 outcome. You might succeed at it, you might fail at it, you know, but it's better to keep your mind continuously that you're going to succeed at it, even if you eventually fail at it. At least you enjoy the period that you were believing that you will succeed. So, and I had one person in particular like that. Sometimes last year came around all fidgety and all that. Instead of even focus on trying to say, oh yeah, this is process modeling, this is this, I spend a lot of my time trying to psych her up to make sure that the confidence gets there. The moment the confidence the moment she embraced that confidence, she was able to think straight and look at things and just do her own research. And so the sessions I now had with her was more focused on her coming with me and say, this is what I think, this is what I think, this is what I think, this is what I think I'm going to do. So what do you think? You know, and then, oh yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, just tweak this a little bit, just tweak that a little bit. Within a short period of time, she became like one of like the best in that particular role within our organization. And when I say short period of time, I'm talking about 1-2 months. You know, someone who just switched a career and is already shining. Why is that? Is because some people that have been doing something for so many years, they become lethargic. They become lazy. You know, they just feel this is how I've been doing it. They are not open to embracing something new or a better way to do it. So sometimes you think those people have more experience than you, but you are probably coming in with more zeal and more passion and more enthusiasm, and you will be able to do far better than them. You know, I've had this experience personally. I've worked together with people who probably have like 10, 15 years more experience than I am. And I see their work and I'm like, okay, this does not cut it at all. And I have to like rework some of those things. And you see where organizations can be annoying sometimes when they are paying that person with so many years of experience, so much money, and somebody else is doing a better job. So that's where you need to be able to tell your story very clearly as well. So in summary, what have I been talking about? Be clear on why you want to make that career jump. Be clear on why you want to make that switch, and be sincere with yourself. If it's more money, yes, it's more money. So look for any roles that pay less than that money, you know, and people that are coaching in terms of their career change and all that. I personally always make sure we have a limit to how much money we are not going to go below. And sometimes people are afraid when we agree on that amount, but they end up achieving that amount and they're like, oh no, how did this happen? Yeah, it's always there. People who are not as good as you are earning that. So why should you shortchange yourself? You know, so if it's money, be serious about it, tell that it's money, and prioritize only roles that are above that money. You know, as a man thinks in his heart, so he is. So if you start believing that this is the limit you want to go for, it's going to happen. I tell you, and I've said this story over and over. When I relocated to this country, the Lord gave me a figure that this is what you're going to start with. But after not getting something early enough, I now started reducing what I wanted. But eventually, after I got the role, I realized that somebody else who was doing the role was being paid even a little bit more than the figure that I thought was impossible for me to earn. And when I got in, it wasn't as if the person's work was better than mine or something. We're pretty much working at the same level of excellence. So that means if I'd stated, and it was the exact amount I gave them that they paid me. So if I had worked in faith and declared the amounts that dropped in my spirit, that's what I would have started from. So don't sell yourself short. It's very essential. So be clear on why you want to make that change. Yeah, be clear on why you want to, and let that why narrow down the opportunities you're focused on. Secondly, once you've decided what role you want to change into, go ahead and read job descriptions. Like, it has to be a daily thing. 2-3 job descriptions, and every day as you read them, you're taking it. Maybe we can spend like 5 minutes to look at this, but I want to do this quick summary and then we read some job descriptions. Read job descriptions, take notes of what are the common things all these people are requesting for. And when you've taken those notes, those skills, those keywords becomes the guideline for what you want to learn. They become the guidelines for what you want to learn. Then first is that now, but as you start learning those things, you start updating your CV and improving your CV. And the more you learn, the more confident you become as well. Confidence is not a magic charm that will just jump on you. You know, even God is not lazy that you just pray and he would drop a lot of confidence into you. There are things you need to learn yourself to get that confidence. Of course, there is the emotional part of it, there's the psyche part of it, but there's also the part of you learning to build your confidence. So as you learn more, you update your CV, you feel more confident to insist on what you really want, you know. Another why, read a lot of job descriptions, learn a lot of those skills you found, update your CV in line, and make sure that your verbs and everything is in line, and make sure you're confident. And very importantly is that have somebody that you can speak to continuously who is in that space. So I get to work with people sometimes where, for instance, someone relocated the other time and this person was interested, I think was like civil engineering related stuff. I've not done stuff in civil engineering. You know, I can give some advice. I was able to help and say, okay, adjust your CV this way, blah, blah, blah. And some people who had roles because it was a fresh graduate person and all that. So I have a few friends who have some roles for those levels, and I was able to make that referral. And then, you know, beyond them referring her, they're able to get that connection. She was able to get some feedback from those people in that space as well. Eventually, she's ended up to get something, not from the referrals that I made, but in one little way, whether it's the skills, whether it's the updates on the CV, whether it's the things additional stuff she learned from those people that she eventually met and all that. So have somebody that you can really speak to about these things. You can have 5, 6, 7 people, but you need one person that you can always disturb at any point in time. So it's because it's very helpful. You would always have a lot of questions. So, and build that relationship and chase people down, like unashamedly ask questions every point in time. There is this, if I can find the exact episode of this TV show, I would probably recommend it as something. The TV show, I think, is called Startups. It's a South Korean one, not the US one. That US one was a little bit too criminal activity than Startups. Was a South Korean one. And there's this lady who was just working, like, she didn't even graduate from school. She was just doing like some side hustle, odd jobs and things like that. But one way or the other, she was challenged by someone, and then she went to apply for some. I'm already giving you all the spoilers now, but I can't help it. I need that context to explain where I'm trying to go to. So anyway, she got into like this accelerator that invests in startups and things like that without any ideas of her own. But they have this interesting way of matching people without ideas to startups with ideas to mix the skill, And then she got that opportunity, became a CEO of a startup just like that, without any knowledge, without any experience, nothing, And because they got assigned a mentor, she would read as late as possible into the night and send 40 questions in one night to the mentor. And the mentor is like, man, not even a lot of people are reaching out for this level of information, always reaching out. Even if he does not respond, she's still sending more questions, He would eventually have to respond to this. I coach some people that even pay for the service, and I'm still the one chasing them to say, guys, please ask questions, reach out for one-on-one session. And I'm like, whoa, you can't really help people enough, So always reach out, have your questions, bombard people with questions that it's very, very helpful if that person is in the space of the role that you're looking for, so ask these questions. It's very, very essential because there are many, many misleading information online there. You can't just read something and just take it to heart. So if you know there's someone you can trust their guidance, reach out to them and ask as many questions as possible. So like one of those things is training organizations with, I do training, certification training and things like that, but I tell people the truth as much as possible. What certification do I need to do? I'm like, no, certification is very good, but it's not a priority. The skill, the experience is more essential. So even if you don't have opportunity to do that job in where you are right now, look for a place where you can volunteer to use that skill, gain that experience. Those two things, the skill, the experience, is more essential than any other thing. And making sure that your CV is well done. Oh my God, I can't tell you how many CVs I've looked at and I'm like, what is this? And I'm saying this, I know I've read well over 1,000 CVs, because I did a program sometime last year and a lot of people applied to get into it, read a lot of CVs, and I'm like, and I've seen CVs of people that are very experienced as well. And one thing I also advise people against is here in the UK, there are a lot of organizations that say a £50 will help you do your CV. Those guys, they're doing a good job, but their job is not good enough because they're writing a lot of CVs. So they end up using like the same template, the same stories for almost everybody. So it's not very helpful. They don't spend the time to make it authentic to you as an individual. And I've had stories of people who paid them and they did not get any results out of it, But I mean, there are also some people who have paid them who also got results out of it. But I have like a template I share with people. I said, this is a template, try to adapt your CV to it. It's something that I have joy doing, helping people out with their CVs. You get a template, put in the work, do the stuff, I give some feedback and all that. And before you know, you see your past CV, you see your current CV, and it looks like, okay, this one should be the receptionist. This one should be the CEO. That's how far apart two different CVs, depending on how you craft your narrative, can actually be. So get your CV airtight, man. It's just like one joke. I was going to look for that joke before the session, but I didn't have time to look for it. Someone, I don't know if anybody have seen it. Somebody asked a question online somewhere and said, how do you write, I changed a light bulb. Let me even search if I can find it. How do you write, I changed a light bulb on a resume? You see it, a light bulb on your resume. And someone responded with some words. I'm like, you see those two things? That's the difference between the person who is earning £30,000 and the person earning £100,000. And they have the same experience and doing the same job because somebody told the story more solidly. Someone said, how do you write, I changed a resume, I changed a light bulb on your resume? I'm waiting for it to pop up properly. Yeah. And the response is single-handedly manage the successful upgrade and deployment of new environmental illumination system with zero cost overruns and zero safety incidents. Someone is looking at it and like, oh no, has this guy not told a lie? He has not told a lie. This is what he did actually. And the difference is that this guy was at the level of understanding what he did. This other person is at the level of understanding the implication, the value of what he has done and the things that he has avoided, the things that he has guarded against. That's why he's not just talking about light bulb, but he's talking about new environmental illumination system. Because that's what the light bulb is, isn't it? And he did it without any without cost overruns and without safety incidents. So tell your stories, make it as tight as possible. I cannot overemphasize that. So I wanted to look at some of the things here when I said read some of these descriptions. Skills and experience is very important. Don't get carried away. And another one that I laugh at sometimes is the fact that someone like, oh, I want to change into this career path. Do I need to do a master's degree in that? No. Like people who even have a master's degree in that thing, sometimes they still have a tough time getting the role compared to people who have the skill and the experience, and then maybe even certification. You know, it's like experience, let's say skill, priority number one, experience, priority number two. Both of them are kind of tied together because your experience is what justifies the skill that you've got, isn't it? So the skill, the experience, then certifications before university degree. Of course, depending on your line of work, you know, there are still some line of work where university degree is still relevant. But as we begin to see more and more these days, there are more certifications that is able to help you bridge that gap, where you can switch from something absolutely different to something else just because you've found a way to volunteer and get the experience and the skill and done maybe the certification that you can afford that lines up with that as well. So that being said, when I said read the job descriptions, you see some of the things I'm looking at here. They're talking about the outcomes that this project needs to get in this place, the capabilities, what they expect this person to have, demonstrate experience of developing and learning, blah, 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 experience of working major project methodologies, Prince2 and Agile. So they need those dual experience. So you need to call those things out in your list, Prince2, Agile, yeah? So if you have all the Agile, if you don't have some Prince2, they might be like, okay, some people misread these things. When they see, they think what you're asking for here is certification. No, what you're asking for here is demonstration that you can do it. Demonstration that you can do it. Okay, so qualification held in one or more major project management methods. Yeah, they've asked for qualification here as well, but like I told you, many places would ask for certification, but if you have the experience and the knowledge to show for it and the skill to show for it, you can still win. And they work around sometimes. Honestly, certifications are expensive. I do these things. I charge people for it, you know. These things are £500, £800, £1,000. If you don't have the funds for it, there are way around these things. Go on to LinkedIn Learning. Sign up. It's about 20-something pounds a month. There are so many content out there that you can go there, learn the ones you can learn in that space. Take note of all the things you've learned, get them on your CV, speak to somebody, get some experience, learn all those things like that. And then you'll be able to make your career switch. Where you've now made the career switch again, as a way to now, by the time you start earning that money, as a way to learn deeply and learn better, then you can come back and spend money on some certifications, you know? So, and this is what I did. Relocating to the UK, I didn't have any certification or anything like that. I got a job. When I started getting the money from the job, it was that money I spent on the certifications itself. So yeah, so although another thing around is that some organizations today are giving some of those opportunities. I do it as well to some of my people, where it's like, well, I understand, hey, this is costing you £900. Can you split the cost over the next 3 or 4 months and pay instrumentally to just ease into the stuff? So that's also one of the things. But don't let that shoot you down. Focus first more on what you can learn. A lot of content are online, I tell you. But it's just that sometimes you don't know which is real. But when you do things like LinkedIn Learn, even on YouTube, sometimes you will see a whole 8 hours course on business analysis, a whole 4 hours course on project management. But I've seen some of them that are rubbish. So that's why I said it's difficult to know which of them is correct when you just check online. But LinkedIn Learning gives some level of quality control. So you get on there. There are other options as well too. You know, there is Udemy with a lot of stuff. I have a bit of concern with Udemy as well too, because Udemy is a bit more open. So different people chuck content into Udemy. So you need to be able to know this is more authentic than this one. So some content on Udemy, I mean, a lot of content on Udemy are very, very good, but there are some of them that I've also seen on Udemy that are like, All right, you just said what you want to say here. This is not, but LinkedIn Learning is still like my number one recommendation that I make a lot of time. Then Udemy is very good because what I love better about Udemy is the fact that that one you can just buy the particular course you're interested in and you can finish it whenever you want to finish it. But LinkedIn only subscription, you have to keep paying every month. But the advantage of that as well too is that your monthly payment gives you access to so many contents also. So yeah, I can't really see some deep stuff on this role. One of the things I do sometimes as well too is that when searching some of all these things, try to focus more on maybe some more recognized name organizations because there is a tendency of them being more deliberate with the content that they have on their job adverts. Like in this case, this is with the London Stock Exchange Group, is a project management office role. And this is similar but different. Yeah, so they are looking for somebody who understands legislation and compliance requirements. So not any project manager will be able, or projects or PMO analyst to be able to get this. They need some of those compliance knowledge, risk deliverable. So risk management, you need to be able to, they've mentioned risk like twice. This is how you know things that are very key to organizations like this. So there is that top of your CV, the first 4 or 5 lines. If there's a particular job that you're very, very interested in, beyond everything you've written in your CV, make sure that 4 or 5 lines speaks to the most important thing that you're looking for. They've mentioned compliance here, they've mentioned risk here. You see, they're not even mentioning the conventional PMO things, yeah, like scheduling and stakeholder management and cost tracking and resource management and those conventional things. They double down on compliance risk. What's the 4th thing here? Like capacity through recruitment, like capacity building even for others as well. So that's what you need to now think back. The interesting thing about a mind is that there are many things you've done before in the past that you cannot remember the detail again. It happens to me a lot, I say no sometimes to some things, and then I remember, oh no, you've done this. This is actually similar to this. You can't remember everything. And that's why I always advise people. I mean, I need to take this advice better as well too. Sometimes is that your CV, don't start updating your CV when you need the next job. While you're on your current job, try to always keep updates on the things that you're doing because some of those things you are going to forget one year after you've left that company. So update it. There are some people who even have a full list. Apart from their CV, they have a full list somewhere where they document lists details of everything that they've done in that place. So every time they want to write their CV, they can go back to that thing and fetch which of these stories, which of these results, which of these achievements fits more to what I'm trying to write. So there is always so more to you than you actually think, than you actually remember. So, but when we dig deep, we'll be able to fetch this. So I was saying that 4 lines at the top of your CV, when you say your profile summary, make sure that story aligns with the key role that you're very interested in. So you want to put in that 4 line there, risk, compliance, if you've done it, of course, and put it there, because many times that is the place where they decide if they want to continue reading your CV or they're not going to continue reading. Someone might be thinking, what about the cover letter? Well, I think the demand for cover letter is dwindling more and more and more. And the reason for that is because as far as it's concerned within the UK anyway, and it's also the same thing outside there as well. I mean, when I was recruiting for roles, even while I was in Nigeria, this was the thing, most of these jobs gets like a lot of CV. So am I going to read a cover letter first, then go back to the CV? Why can't I just go straight to the CV and pick what I'm interested in? So, and also because many times today, you have a middle layer, which is the recruitment organization. They would screen what you've put in, and then they would look at your CV and then pass it on. So sometimes even when you submit a cover letter, it doesn't even get to the company because it's only the CV that some of these guys are sending across sometimes. So that 4 lines at the top of your CV is like your hyper summary of a cover letter. So always take it very, very seriously. And in terms of structure, some people say, oh no, if you are not a fresh graduate, start with your the jobs, your work experience, and put your education at the bottom. It is not a fixed rule. Yeah, it depends on what. If the things that you've studied relates to the new role that you're looking for, or you've got some certification related to the new role you're looking for, don't go put that certification at the bottom, put it at the top, because that's an additional story. But if, you've studied global language and you're looking for a job as a software engineer, it doesn't actually connect, isn't it? Then you can put that at the back. So the rule of thumb really is, what is the strong point? Your strong points at the top. But however, your job or your work experience definitely start on the first page. That is one must-have rule, because no matter how many interesting things you've shown them on the first page, they want to see what is your most recent role. And another thing about it is that job title, don't get lost in job titles. Many times we see our job title as this, but many organizations are very lazy in crafting job titles. So don't just let your job title define you. Try to dig deep into what your job role was. What were you actually doing in that place? Oh yeah, I was a front-end designer. However, we didn't have a project manager, but so I end up doing project management work and all those things. Yeah, you've done the project management work in that role. You're honest with yourself that you've actually done that job, and now you want to switch. Feel free to change your job title on your CV to project manager. Don't say, oh no, but I title in the organization. But did you do the work? Yes, I did the work. Then call yourself it, because you can confidently explain it. Because even when they say we need your reference, then they get your reference from the organization, and the organization was a front-end designer. You can tell them, yes, I was employed as a front-end designer. We don't have a project manager. I work in that context. And since I'm looking for this role, it is in my best interest to put a description, a title that matches what I'm coming for. You know, nobody's going to say no. You like no. You can explain it. You want to go back to that company to ask them, did I do this? Yes, did you do this? Yes, it did. Then what are we talking about again? If I had not put project manager on the title, would you have called me for this interview? Even if I wrote exactly the same description, because if the title does not match what you're looking for, don't bother reading the details again. So that's one of the reasons why I say that even when your role is not something within an organization, you want to make a switch, try to look for opportunity. Do the things you really want to do wherever you are. Look for opportunities to do them. And if you don't get an opportunity, create, start doing some of those things within your small business that you have. And then you can put your small stuff and that role on the topmost stuff on the CV, because these things matter and they cannot be overemphasized. Another thing to think in mind as well too is that if you're looking for a particular role, there are roles today that they always have different titles to them. And I know I keep using this project management as an example. It's mainly because I think it's one role where a lot of us understand clearly what it's all about. That's why I'm not bringing in some titles that people will say, oh, what's that? What's that? So today, project management is going by all different type of stuff. You got project manager, you've got a program manager, which is like now you can manage multiple projects at the same time. Delivery managers, agile delivery managers, project directors, of course, that's now going to like director level and things like that. But the other stuff like PMO, which is like project management office. So PMO is not supposed to just be a role. You say PMO analyst or PMO coordinator or PMO manager. So these are like different variations of almost the same stuff. So if you're interested in something, don't just say, I want project management and just think only project management. Think of the ecosystem of that role. You might realize that what you want is project management, not necessarily a project manager role. So that's one thing that is important. So if you look at it, you might realize that those different flavor, I'm more interested in the PMO manager one, because that is more being in charge, being like an administrative head, coordinating what's the support for multiple projects at the same time. That is more you rather than focused on the delivery. Yeah, then go for that, and that's one thing that's also very important. Like if you're looking to make a switch, look for, okay, how can I make a switch that is not too far off from where I am today? Like how can I look for the ones where my current position can be an advantage into the place where I want to switch? And sometimes if you want to change a role, one of the things you might want to be thinking of, okay, what if I stay within this industry that I'm currently in? So you have the advantage of industry experience, even though you are changing your job focus. That gives you an edge over others who doesn't have industry experience. However, sometimes what you are doing today and what you want to switch to are so far apart that there is nothing close to this. You just have to make that rapid jump. Yes. And when doing that as well, so sometimes you might also want to consider a bridge career path. Yeah, it's not all the time, and it's not settling for less. It's part of your journey. You can be like, I want to switch from this to this, but let me just go with the project manager as an example. So I want to switch from the project manager role, but it looks as if it's a far-fetched and I'm trying it, it's not happening. Okay, can I do something? Can I easily get like a role like IT support? As long as the pay it's not terrible compared to whatever it is you're coming from. You can take that on, for instance, as a bridge role. That gives you the opportunity to work closely with people on the IT projects and things like that. That gives you the opportunity to work closer with the project manager and all those things. what all those roles are. But by the time you now say, but if you ever make a decision to take a bridge career on your way to where you really want to go, always give yourself a time so you don't get lost. From the beginning, tell yourself, I'm doing this for 6 months. So be serious with yourself. Create a clear roadmap. What are all the things you need to achieve? Able to make that switch. Be hard on yourself to make sure you don't relax in what you call a bridge path. So you can do that and then move on to the next stuff in time. So anyway, it's been a lot I've been talking about today, but like I said, this is a conversation that doesn't end in 1 hour or 30 minutes. But I just hope that everything probably was not useful to everybody, but there is an aspect of it that is useful to each and every one of us. Somebody has gotten their own answer when talking about CV. Somebody has gotten their own answer when talking about certifications or school certificates or building the skills yourself. Somebody have gotten the answer about how to learn these skills in a very cheap, affordable way. So don't just fold your hands and say, oh, I don't have £500 to spend now, so I don't have anything to do. No, that would be laziness. There's something you can do now with £25. So start that. And if you don't have £25 to invest in yourself right now, you should have somebody around you who can give you that £25 to invest and start something about it. So please, by all means, get going. There's no point settling for less.
I'm reminding you.
There's no point settling for less, because at the end of the day, this thing is not just about a job. This thing is about your life. This thing is about your purpose. If you know that something that you're doing does not align with what your purpose is, then make the switch, And sometimes the reason why you want to make the switch is because you need more money to be able to fulfill something else, which is your purpose, which is fine. And if you don't get that more money, it might be affecting you from fulfilling the purpose you need to do. So, which is a big thing. So at the end of the day, this job change is not just a life thing or an intellectual thing. It's more spiritual than any other thing, And when you do the job that you really love, that is really great for you, there's a ripple effect on your family beyond the reward you get. Because when you're doing something that you love, you come back energized, no matter how many hours you've spent on it. Even when you're tired, you're happy, you're not cranky. So these are all the things that makes me see this whole working with people about their career change as not just something I do as a side hustle. It's something that I do as a calling. It's something that I do with a sense of purpose, and I take it very seriously. And I love to pour myself and invest myself a lot into people to be able to make this happen. So I got one question here. My time is out. Is it better to get certified first or gain practical experience? I believe I've answered that question in the comment. Please feel free to drop me a chat on WhatsApp and stuff. I'm not in IT or PM, but the tips and advice are really good and can apply across many professions. Exactly. That's the aim of today. That's the aim of the conversation today. Anyway, so with this few points of mine, I hope I've been able to convince you that about the take to switch your career. So please hit the ground running. If you have any questions, like I said, reach out. I'm happy to help. So enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening and go smash the goals again tomorrow. Have a good evening, everybody. Yeah. Thank you for the comments. You're welcome. Please, are there careers you think will be in high demand in the nearest future? That's a very good question, but I already said good night, so some people have started dropping. Careers that will be high demand in the nearest future, do your research as well too, just like what I've done on LinkedIn. If you hear that there's a particular job that people are talking about, hey, this thing is in demand, this thing is in demand, go on LinkedIn, search for the job, and compare the number. Then that would give you some ideas of, well, okay, people are just making noise on this thing. There is not so much demand around it. But paying attention to trends, how things are going, you begin to see the conversation need to be happening, that would help us see. For instance, it's very clear that any job that you can do today to help organizations work more remotely, any solution like that is something that a lot of people need right now. So if there's any role and what are the solutions today that are making people to work remotely? IT solutions. So that just shows that any role that can make those solutions happen is something that everybody will be going for as well. So look at the trend. What do people need? What are the solutions that is meeting that need? What are the roles that will make that solution happen? That's how to determine roles that will continuously be. All right, then. Somebody pops another question again. Thank you very much. I don't like to go over time. Enjoy your evening. Send your messages to me personally. Happy to keep answering them. Bye for now. Good evening.